Welcome to the Mandy Sunner Show. It's lovely to have you here. Thank you for joining. And today I'm going to be welcoming our guest in a minute, who is Lewis Bowman. He's a bit of a technical whiz, I would say, because he knows an awful lot about the industry of networks, the industry of virtualisation. He can talk about it because I have no idea. But yeah, so let's do that. Let's go over to Lewis. We will be just touching upon career, background, and also allowing people out there to understand, how he got to where he has. So yeah, let's welcome Lewis and go over to Lewis. Lewis.
Thank you very much for that really nice intro, Mandy. It's very hard to live up to your introductions, but I'll do my best. And you are absolutely a nail on the head. I am that massive nerd that loves talking about tech stuff that just happens to be here today. So thank you.
Yeah, no, not only that though, Lewis. I mean, before we sort of begin, we've worked together in the past, and one of the things that I just was so impressed by you was the amount of knowledge you have, but also this kind of like real humility that comes with it, and this real you're just so polite. You kind of, not in this kind of way of I don't know. I just noticed that being well-spoken, taking your time, considering another person. There was just so much about you. I remember when we worked together that I just thought, I was just blown away because, you do get some people who are very knowledgeable and they can be quite difficult as well, and you just were not in that category. So, yeah.
Well, thank you for saying that. I mean, it's interesting to me that you do perceive me as that, because I perceive myself as that other kind, that guy that's willing to have his opinion, shout it from the corner of the room as loudly as he can, hope people finally agree with my great way of thinking. I think I'm more in that latter camp than that brilliant description you gave me there. But it's nice to hear, and I think it does come from a position of, when you work in an industry for as long as I have, you have to learn how to sway a room. You can't just be right. You have to make sure everyone else also believes you're right. And that's the thing that I think is hard to teach, and you only can learn it through bitter trial and error. That being the right person in the room is not enough. You need to be right and make the room come with you on your journey, whatever that journey may be. It doesn't have to be technology. This is in all things, I'm sure. Team player and all that jazz.
Definitely. I love that. Yeah. So what we'll start off, Lewis, with is the early career type of theme. So what moments would you say shaped your career, and who has been your biggest mentor or influence?
So it's worth saying that I'm a massive IT nerd, software nerd. I'm a programmer at heart. I learnt to code. And I learnt to code because at a very young age, I was bought a video game console. And unlike many households where you get a games console, it's something to play on and distract, I lived with my grandfather at the time, who was an ex-Royal Naval pilot, Commodore, very, very smart man. And he insisted that when I played it, he'd do his darndest to explain to me it's a machine and how it worked as I was playing it. So for me, from a very young age, I had this weird need for any time I interacted with a device, a tool, a technology, I needed to know how it worked and desperately try and work it out if I didn't know. So I had this very close relationship with technology, and specifically software, with the intention of going into games development, and that was my early life. I learned how to write software programs for video game consoles, and it just so happens that the difference between a video game and a military simulator, which is how I got my early career start, is just the level of complexity and the budget. These days, the video game market's the biggest industry, biggest multimedia industry on earth, but back then, not so much. But it's the willingness to write a piece of software that tries to capture some facet of real life, be it navigating a ship across troubled waters, or physics simulation, and trying to condense it down to run on a piece of hardware that should not be capable of such clever mathematics. For me, it was a combination of, it's a great entertainment challenge and mathematical challenge, and then at the end, someone who doesn't understand any of it can interact with it and enjoy it. And I think that's so cool when someone who has gets given a device or a thing, and it's black magic to them. It provides an experience that they do. And so for me, I think one of the early aspects of my life was trying to deliver that, wow, this little black box is magic, and I'm part of that chain. I help with that. And so in my early career, I specialised in taking all I'd learnt in uni, all I learnt about video games, and trying to bring it into the military space, which is very much where I landed most of my career. For those who don't know me, much of my work has been in the defence and intelligence cleared space, so lots of Royal Naval officers and people from within the government having to learn to do their jobs, the tools I make in my job, which I think is cool.
Yeah, it really is cool. And, it's huge, isn't it? Because you are, like you said, you're part of that. And I think that's another thing that comes across really well from you, is that kind of, deep connection to, the bigger, wider part of the organisation or work that you do. And do you think that, for me personally, I think if people feel connected to that, it really brings out that kind of human aspect of them, because they know they're connected to this entity. How would you say that kind of helped you, or did it help you?
Oh, it absolutely did. So, I, as I mentioned a second ago, my grandfather was Royal Navy. My mother was a fairly senior member of the Ministry of Defence. And I said I was going to be in video games. As a child, I was going to go make video games. But the very first proper job I got was building simulators for a defence contractor for the Navy. So all of a sudden, I had this weird familial connection to what I was doing. I had this, albeit tangential, connection to, my granddad did this, my mum did this. And I was actually kind of, at the time, I probably didn't appreciate it. At the time, I was probably just, it's a job, it's a living, I'll get my game job eventually. But having reflected on it as an adult, I think my willingness to do what I did in my early career and put in all those hours and build all those systems was because I was thinking, this is a little part of what my family do. It's kind of continuing the family legacy. I'd imagine if you're the son of a carpenter and you become a carpenter, you get that very same feeling. I've never had that. And for me, I think deep down, that's where it came from. It was I am continuing this legacy of what my family do, albeit in a different way.
It's so interesting.
I thought that was interesting.
So what else, being connected, being part of something bigger, how have you, what do you currently do, and how have you kept that going?
So I've been building and making military or military adjacent systems my entire working career. And a lot of that work requires you to work within one of the large defence contracting primes, the big companies that make the news all the time. And I'm not going to go name drop too often, but I worked in and amongst those organisations for a long time, to the point where I went from being just a programmer, all the way up to a leading engineer, and then I became a product owner of a fairly sizable program that directly relates to this country's national deterrent and things like that. And I was on this very clear and defined path, this groove in the road. The next job up is becoming the product owner or product manager of the next bigger program, and I had this nice clear runway to where I wanted to be. Where I was told I wanted to be. And then I hit a wall, a personal wall.
Okay.
That I spent more of my day talking about politics and intrigue of politics between teams and different companies than I was the thing I was making. And at that point, I had a bit of a minor crisis. I saw that, the journey from here on in isn't discussing this cool technology and how it can change the world, how it can do this. It's, we've got to be careful not to offend that team or this team, or we can't do that because this company's doing that and we own a 10-year agreement with them and we can't touch them. And I was like, I don't think I like this anymore. I think I'm done. And it just so happens I've been delivering a lot of virtualization specific technology through companies like VMware and Microsoft. They knew who I was, and I was a well-known face and name at lots of those kind of meetings and tables.
I would
say. I wouldn't say rock star, but if you want to say it, I'm happy to say it again. And I let slip to a few of them that I was a bit getting itchy feet. I didn't quite know what I wanted to do left, and they did that thing that they do really well in the IT space. They poached me. They said, "Hey, Lewis, if you're fed up with the politics of this particular business, why don't you come work for us? Deal with just the technology."
Yeah,
and that's what I did. So I jumped ship. I became a type of consultant for VMware at the time, and they hired me to effectively act as a bit of a translator. I was brought in, and I had to translate between the world of IT and the world of defence, because defence uses IT and IT uses defence. They are symbiotic industries, but what they care about, why they care about things, and how they work are chalk and cheese. And because of that, there was a lot of issues understanding customer space. So I was brought into that company. I then worked and liaised with those defence primes, a couple of other critical national infrastructure things, bank or two. And I acted as a technical consultant for several years, and I was really digging that. And I think I would still probably be doing that if it weren't for external forces. As with all things in the IT industry, it's a very dynamic very dynamic environment. Lots of big money business deals go on. And the company I worked for, which was a fairly long in the tooth, by Silicon Valley standards, it was an old company. It was as old as 20 years, which is really old in the IT space. It was bought out by Broadcom, a massive hyper conglomerate, and I had to make that choice. Do I stay or do I go? And initially, my plan was very much to stay. But having talked about my aspirations, my want to do more personal projects, to flex my programming roots a little bit more, it had dawned on me that in becoming a consultant to all these great organizations, I lost my ability to self-determine what I worked on. I was always having to work with or in the problem spaces of these organizations, which is fine. But occasionally I'd see a problem. I go, I could fix that. I could write a piece of software to solve this problem. I could build a tool, and then I wouldn't have the bandwidth nor time to do it. Whereas my wife very acutely pointed out, if you just became a contractor, did your own thing, you could, carve your time up. You could still do this work and absolutely continue the career path you were doing, but you'd also have that flexibility and latitude just to legitimize those hobby projects, which is something I'm a big advocate of. I always say, if you're in any engineering space, you're only as good as the last hobby project you made. Doesn't matter what you do for a day job, it's the stuff you do on the side, the weird side gigs that define you. And I wanted more of that bandwidth, so I said, you know what, during this big merger, now's the time to jump ship and try and go it alone. So since then, for the last 2 and a bit years, I've been an independent consultant forming a small company, and we consult very much into the defence and intelligence spaces still, but under my own terms.
Brilliant.
With all the risks and interesting behaviours that employs.
Yeah, because the thing is, there is going independent, it feels like it really is a sense of freedom, because you feel that you're not tied to the shackles of the furniture and politics and all of that. But it also comes with the making sure that you understand business and that you are quite pragmatic in putting structures in for yourself. The whole kind of economical structures, understanding and knowing about money, and those sorts of things are really, really important. I remember when I first started out. First and foremost, I couldn't actually just go and do contracting because I had 3 children and they were young, they needed me, so permanent positions were the right way for me to go. The thing around that is that if, when it comes to promotions and things, if you're of a level where the company see you as being actually, they're a good level, we want to try and promote the ones who are, of a level where we want to raise them, we don't want them to leave, etc., etc. So I didn't really get promoted. That was just not happening for me. And, I probably didn't try hard enough, because for me, it was about doing the day job.
Yes.
So I became quite into understanding technology, understanding how we worked and, architecture. And you do slowly find your passion. Architecture for me is a big thing. Design is a big thing. And really bringing those together, as well as what the business's needs are, it became so, and I just learned things, studied, and but I didn't ever promote myself. And I think that's problem in a way for people who have a passion, they love certain things, but they don't know how to promote themselves. So that's probably something that, later on I have discovered as I developed into a coach, learning more about that space, that actually if you want to do these sorts of things, if you have a passion and you want to get promoted, then you have to work at it as well. But if an external force comes along, actually that is an opportunity. Of course it's a risk as well, but it becomes your opportunity. So, congratulations, well done for taking those risks and making them work, because again, what you know now, you wouldn't have known.
No.
If you...
Let's just put it this way, I've learned more about tax law in the last year and a half than I ever thought I would do in a lifetime. But it has been an absolute learning experience and stressful as hell. But without that safety net, you have so much more compulsion to diversify what you understand and why you understand it. I think in a year or two's time, once it's all a bit more business as usual, I will reflect on this time and go, oh, that was great. But it's hard to see it in the now. And that's the thing I think I have to remind myself on the daily. Yeah.
I also remember when I met you and, met some of the other teams as well, just my whole university period came back to me about, oh, Mandy, you remember you loved networks, you loved the protocols, and I did. And I think that's the other beauty around working with engineers, working with specialists. There is so much involved. It's not just the user interface. It's not just this is a ping. There's just so much involved. And then take a step out and look at the business layer where you've got your contracts, you've got your businesses. It's then understanding that level as well. So you come and you grow. You've got so much in terms of your what you know now, that from that engineering space, from growing that career to what you're doing now. You come with a lot of experience.
No. Oh no, I appreciate that. Thank you. It's one of those things that I think in my earlier career, I used to be obsessed about being that deep technician, that deep specialist. You're so taught from a very young age that when you're going to specialize in something, you become the specialist, the guy in a thing. And actually, that's quite a toxic trait, I think. I think actually, having looked back on it somewhat, it's very much, you have to become much more broad in the scope of things you understand. You have to be able to translate lots of different domains into other domains. So it's good to be less deep in your specialism, but more broad if you can. Yeah. It's always good to have that little point that you're better known for. But I think one of the skills that if I was to do it all again, that's the one thing I'd teach the younger version of me is be more broad in what you learn, because you need to be able to translate between all these different disciplines, even within just the engineering space. And then there's the business space and all the others.
Absolutely. You're so right there. So, so you've kind of we've explored your career, like your early moments and your influences. Your granddad, God bless him. He sounds like a really, and your mum as well. They all sound like really lovely people. Thank you to the granddad and to the mum. I just want to put that out there. So do you want to walk us through, say, I think you've already done it, but just remind us the recent big decision. How did you make it?
So in my day job, whenever you make a decision, you're habitually taught it has to be kind of a mathematical thing. You don't never do nothing off of a gut. If you make a design decision, you log it down, you articulate what the decision is, what the obvious outcome of it is, and then you often have to kind of score it somehow. And I've lived by that mantra for longer than I care to think. Every single decision I make has to be scorecarded somehow. So when it came to the career choice of do I stay or do I go, I actually did the whiteboarding thing of I listed out all of the major assumptions, risks, constraints, probabilities, and I then came up with a bunch of values I care about. Things such as financial stability, as you mentioned, opportunity costs. Will leaving a large megacorp to go it alone impact my ability to have credibility when going to events or networking? Will it help my network? Will it give me a different or deeper set of skills and experience? And I scorecarded everything out. And the thing that surprises me to this day is the scorecard said stay. But I went, actually, I actually went back at it and stared at the wall, lamenting. Maybe my scoring system was weighted towards financial stability too much. Okay. If I removed the financial stability pillar and went, actually, let's pretend money isn't an object. It screams, do it your own, go your own way, do your own thing. So I had this conversation with my wife, and she goes, you know what, maybe your metrics are flawed. Maybe your assumption that we need this financial stability is wrong. And I then reran it using the system I have always used. In fact, I'm fairly sure I've subjected you to it in the past, so I'm not going to apologise for it now. I took out the financial factor, and all of a sudden it glaringly obvious, it said leave. So it's interesting to me that a process that I have lived by, I've continued to live by, but sometimes it takes a third party to go, actually, that part is wrong. And and I was willing at the time. I'm not normally willing to reevaluate my decisions. Normally I'm very locked in once I'm locked in, but I guess my wife knows me better than most.
It's interesting, isn't it? I've got this wonderful project manager whom I have a lovely relationship with, and we often speak about these things. It's all very well having your OKRs at a business level, at an organisational level. OKRs are objectives and key results, I believe. And then you have your KPIs, which are key performing indicators. That's fantastic. And then you have your organisational values. So great, but you forget these things on a day-to-day. A human being, a person who's got a family, who's got bills to pay, who's got themselves. They may just be like I was back in the day. I was a loner. I was a lone parent, single parent, but I was actually a loner as well. I just didn't mix with people. I, was just head down, got to pay the mortgage, got to make sure, these things happen, these very important things, which meant I put all of my focus into work, and I didn't have the energy and the time and the mind space to do anything else. So individually, at an individual level, how important would you say it is to have a really good relationship with your manager, for them to understand, during the one-to-ones, who is this person?
I think you need to have people that advocate for you when you're not there.
Okay.
If you need to always be surrounding yourself with people that get what you want and get what the business want and are able to kind of bridge that gap as best they can. If you have your manager has to get why you're doing a thing and why you're here. Because if someone doesn't get deep down what your motivation is, they're not going to advocate for you very well. And I've always said it doesn't need to be your manager necessarily. It can be a mentor figure. It can be just a colleague that advocates. But I always think it's a matter of having people who get your motivation rather than get you day to day.
Yeah.
And that's quite hard to do without kind of putting yourself out there, putting your personality out there in the team. Because especially in the engineering space, there is output, there is deliverable.
Yeah.
And that kind of abstracts you away from interacting with, if you're doing your code in your corner, you don't actually need to interact with that many other people other than to do your reporting in. But I think you have to go out of your way to do it. Yeah. You have to make a point of going, I'm here for this reason, and you need to help me get to where I need to be and help one another. And it's a soft skill that I'm not very good at, but I think it's a soft skill that I think people need to say out loud more.
Yeah. Right. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
We'll love this. If you had to change your job title to match your personality, what would it be?
Massive freaking nerd. Because I don't care what I do. Yeah, MFD.
MFD.
And that'll be on the license plate of the car and the parking spot and everything. No, MFD. It's what I am through and through. And I think if I was anything but that, I'd be sad.
Massive freaking nerd is, MFN.
Yeah.
Yeah, but MFD sounds better.
Yeah, I'm sure we can come up with some acronyms that works with it.
Okay, ready for another one?
Absolutely.
So what are you terrible at but secretly enjoy?
All artistic pursuits. My wife is an artist. She paints, she does clay pottery. She's great. And I am awful at it. I used to paint miniatures, when I was younger, Warhammer, whatever.
Yeah.
And they used to look like a toddler had painted them. They looked bad. I have 0 to negative hand-eye coordination. I can't be trusted with anything that requires, scissors. You gotta get me the safety ones.
Oh.
But deep down, I love that feeling at the end of it going, that's something I did.
Yeah.
Even if it looks like a toddler did it. And so that's the one thing I wish I could change. I wish I was a little bit more artistic in nature and ability.
No.
Because what's in here never comes out there.
Oh, bless.
But I think that'll be it. I wish I was just a little bit more artistically flavoured, because I am very much an engineer's engineer.
Let's kind of glean on that and go back into the world of work and everything. How important is it then for an organisation to understand the other part? It's not just about one aspect of technology. Touch on that.
So in any given problem space, whether it's building a submarine or building a rocket or just, releasing a book, there'll be a huge number of people involved in that endeavor, all of whom have their very specific focus and area that they care about and know about. And that focus colors the way you see the world. To every, I hate this analogy, but to someone holding a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Someone holding a screwdriver, everything looks like a screw.
Yeah.
And I think just being able to occasionally go, what if this hammer wasn't a hammer? What if it was a screw? And just being able to at least role play in your own head. Yeah. What would someone else think of this? Does really help you, articulate a problem to someone such as that, but also maybe colours the way you would address a problem.
Yeah.
Sometimes the software solution isn't the answer, and that's heresy to most software engineers, but sometimes a piece of hardware will do it, or sometimes teaching the human not to do the thing. We're seeing it today in Teslas and car safety. There's a lot of stuff going on in this space around, the safety of self-driving cars, and a lot of what we're doing in self-driving cars these days is feedback loops to educate the user to have their hands at 10 and 2. You sometimes changing the behaviors of people involved in the system is much more influential long term than changing your specific niche and your specific speciality at that point in time. And it's hard to think like that, but I think you have to.
You do have to. You're absolutely right. Just because you've mentioned the electric vehicle so I'm just going to have my little whinge. And my whinge is, when products are built, why on earth do people not think about the operational handling of services once the product goes out? It's so frustrating. It's so annoying, just to get an appointment because, your car software needs updating or something's not right on your car and you have to take it in, but that's the only garage you can take it in. And because they don't have any others. And even if they do have some others, they are just so far away, but you can't drive it there. This is so annoying that honestly, it's actually there's a gap in the market if anybody wants to go and do something.
Is there a gap in the market though? It's one of those things that the economics of the automotive industry requires them that garages have affiliate garages and either they're owned or co-owned or invested by the parent. So you can only go to a Ford dealership for Ford, Tesla for Tesla, and that's by market design. And that's interesting because we've quietly accepted that behaviour. We've quietly accepted that two different brands are two different things. They're not both cars. One's a Ford, one's a Tesla, and you have to treat them differently. And that actually is a bit weird. In an optimal society,
I agree.
You'd only go to one supermarket, one garage, but because of the way capitalism works, we don't value that. We value the diversity of the marketplace over the implications that has. And that's one unfortunate side effect of the system in which we all live. It's systems thinking gone wrong. It
is definitely systems thinking gone wrong and not a care in the world for the humanity side of things and people, like me, I was without my car for 41 days. It was just awful. I think brand has got to explore brotherhood. Isn't there a film or a series called Band of Brothers or something?
Yes, the World War II biopic.
So many famous celebrities and actors in there. No, I think brands have got to become a bit more thinking in a homogenised way. They have to.
Or legislation. I mean, we're seeing it right now in the EU, the USB-C cable law. To this day, Apple still push devices that have a proprietary connector to charge your phone. The EU have had to step in and go, no, you're using USB-C because it's ridiculous that you have. Sometimes legislation's the only way to fix this.
And thank God if they do that, though. Don't you think?
Yes, but the fact it takes 11 years in court to get there is ridiculous. I would like to have thought someone in Apple would have gone, the tide's turning, let's get ahead of this.
Absolutely.
But I guess that's the power of monopoly. You don't necessarily get swayed as much because they're going to buy your charger whether you like it or not. Exactly.
Yeah. No, just because we're going back into the
Sorry, dragging you back into tech because that's what I do to everything.
Let's talk about something else, okay? So let's touch upon AI. What are your thoughts and feelings?
Very mixed thoughts because I feel like I missed the boat on this one. So, bit of history. I studied software engineering at university, specialised in deploying to weird and wonderful hardware, mostly games consoles. I started my PhD the first year of the PhD was what's called a Master's by way of research. And I was focusing on the applications of safety in AI in safety critical spaces.
Okay.
So using AI for stuff that could potentially harm or hurt if gone wrong.
Okay.
Effectively what I ended up doing as a career. And at the time, it was 2000 and something, there wasn't much talk about in the public space. AI was still very much a Silicon Valley thing, and talked about in movies as danger Skynet, danger Terminators, but nothing was being developed. So I started working. This is a bit dull. There's nothing's happening here. And then I go into the workforce. And then 2 years later, the word AI is the most important word one can have on their CV. So I have I feel like I've missed the boat. So maybe what I say here is coloured by a little bit of saltiness about missing the trick. But it's such a fascinating tool. Like you can't even imagine how complicated it is under the hood. You can't even visualize how an AI thinks to a human because it doesn't think in a conventional sense. It's a bunch of mathematical activation functions which are already, parts of discrete mathematics most people have no recollection of. And somehow it's able to tell what's a banana and what's not a banana on your camera. It's a deeply complicated field with a lot of data science that is actually understood by very few. And that's a concern I always have in any industry, where you have a whole bunch of people consuming a technology, using it day to day, but so few people who are able to iterate on it. And which means that over the next few years, what I think you'll see the big manufacturers of AI tech become ungodly rich from all the money they're making, but then you get this weird dependency on them. So I don't dislike or like AI the technology. I think it's inevitable. It's a Pandora's box moment. Once you start using it, you're going to continue using it. There's no going back. I have a concern that not enough application developers or consumers have an actual understanding of how it's made and how it works and how one trains it. Because training AI data is incredibly hard and fraught with risks, both ethical and technological. I mean, we're seeing already that depending on the data sets you use to train it to identify people for machine vision car driving problems. How does one tell it to prioritize, in a collision instance, how do you tell it to prioritize who to save, and that's all driven by data, and statistically more old people die in car collisions. So the AIs these days will actually prioritize towards older people because they're the more accepting deaths. That makes no sense, but
no sense.
I'm being a bit hyperbolic because it's not quite that bad. But, I do think understanding the implications of what we're training and why we're doing it. And then I do have a bit of a personal. I used to work as a lecturer at a university. Yeah. And AI was already a thing to write and do coursework back then. Now, the amount of times I have conversations with people in the workforce and just people out in life who the first time you ask them about anything, rather than Googling it and doing a bit of research, they'll go straight to the AI du jour, Grok, Sora, whatever. And they'll type it in, they'll read it out and they go, that's I now understood the problem space, and that's dangerous. People not learning how to research and formulate their own opinion.
So let's kind of like have a little thought about that. The more people can start to be critical with an AI, the more they'll understand the AI actually is making a mistake. The LLMs they're not all perfect. We're feeding the machine, so that's something that people should understand. The machine is being fed by us, just like any kind of media campaign, with whatever out there in the world. People feed it, and if people can understand that and get over that, we'll become an intelligent society.
I do agree with that. My slight caveat to that is we're in the sausage machine mode at the moment, whereby at the moment to make a sausage, one puts in pork and other detritus, cranks the handle, you get a sausage, and then we're teaching the AI to build more sausages. We're at that point now where more work is being built by AIs that's then being fed into the next generation of AI to the point where you're actually diluting the human input in that evolutional process. So I actually think there's a danger of a diluting effect. AIs will start. They already do train off of themselves, and as they keep doing that, the human in the loop gets less and less and less, and that then becomes more of a problem because then there's less of a likelihood the humans will influence and sway that in the correct way.
Yeah. So that is a big thing. And, more organizations, businesses and people need to understand that, and the government needs to really ensure, and fortunately the government are actually putting money into this to make good policies and hopefully do the right thing with regards to AI, because otherwise it'll just go in towards this path which is going to be really, really destructive. So all of the sectors out there, whether they are educational sectors, technology sectors, business, they need to really be mindful fully of the AI. And I'm pretty sure I've put the radio on and I've heard conversations where people are talking about, I put this into AI and this came out. So more and more of that is happening, and hopefully the more people can understand that, the better it will be.
No, absolutely. The more people are just aware of what the technology they're using is,
yes,
and understand how it works,
Absolutely.
the better society is. The second a technological device becomes magic, we're in trouble, because then people lose the ability to understand it. I think that's with all things, not just technology.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not into politics. My children are better informed than I am. However, I do feel the time when Brexit came along, there was just so much disparity and there was just so much chaos that, that chaos hasn't gone away. Similarly, we need to make sure that AI doesn't take that path. Politically, the government needs to be doing things so that people are better informed. Sectors don't just diminish, people's skills and just carte blanche say, no, we're just going to use AI. No, we're just going to have virtual teachers.
No, precisely that.
Yeah.
Workforce displacement is the biggest threat from AI, not Terminator-style doomsday scenarios. I mean, yes, they are AIs used in weapon systems now, which is something that wasn't the case 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But I do think it is the displacement, the economic displacement. Eventually, low-level jobs that you all get to upskill to become high-level jobs, if they all go away to a machine, then you'll have this vast gap between people who have left the educational system and the skilled people you need to do higher order thinking that a machine can't do.
Yeah.
The second you lose that pathway between young kiddie to learned individual, the second you can't make that path with humans all the way, society goes downwards.
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, again, we're just heading more and more towards the end of the show, but also into this kind of wisdom speaking as well. How do you define success for yourself?
So in my youth, it was, how far are you up the org chart? How much money are you earning? What privileges does that entail? And I think that, in retrospect, balmy. These days, it's success is being able to define what you do for reasons you care about. Being able to get up in the morning and go, I'm going to work on this project here because I want to do this thing, and being able to bring it to market and make a living doing so is the ultimate liberty.
So really, it really helps you to focus. Your intentions are there.
Yep. Absolutely, and having the feeling that you're your own master. I mean, obviously, when you're working in a commercial context, you're a slave to the market, whatever will sell. But being able to go, right, I'm doing this because I want to, rather than because I'm being told to.
Lovely.
Such a freeing feeling, and it's great. And I think it's I think everyone should have that feeling of agency.
Yeah, lovely.
Because it makes you feel powerful.
Yeah, no, that is that speaks volumes. I did coaching for many reasons, going into that space and learning more about it. And I don't do coaching on a day-to-day basis, but I bring it into my workspace. I bring it into my daily life because I've just learned so much from it. And I think you're right. If you can bring passion into the projects you're doing, it helps you to focus. It makes you jump out of bed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, cool. Like that. And how do you keep your balance between work and life? Because you're a nerd.
Yes.
You said it, not me.
So when I saw that question, I freaked out because, as you know, Mandy, I am the worst possible person to answer this question because I'm the guy that, for a large chunk of my career, I was putting in way more hours than one should legally do so. I have only really come across this in later career.
Yeah.
And I think the trick is to co-opt aspects of your work into life and vice versa. I said earlier in the conversation, I swear that hobby projects are one of the most important things an engineer can do. It gives you flexibility to play with things. It gives you time to, that's play.
Yeah.
That's life, not work.
Yeah.
And if you can make that thing you're playing with valid benefit your work, great. But then also if you can, while at work, you learn about a thing and you can involve your friends in it, which I've started to do in some of my hobby projects. You know, people I know socially, I use them as my guinea pigs, and I develop things with them. It bleeds the two together, which means that you no longer have a work-life divide. It's a work-life synthesis, if you want a better word for it. I think coming to that is where I'm at now. That's what I'm desperately trying to achieve.
Oh, very beautifully articulated. I love it. Thank you. Right, last question. A little bit of a fun one as well. But if you had a billboard for future professionals, what would it be?
Okay. I'm going to parrot my grandfather now. Sorry, Grandad, wherever you may be. It is, if you're tired, do it tired. By which he meant, no matter where you're at in life, you could be tired, overwork, stress, just do the thing you need to do. Even if it means you're doing it tired, because incremental progress is better than waiting for the optimal time, because that optimal time will never come. So sometimes just getting that little increment out, doing that next iteration to get close to where you want to be, even if in doing so you're a bit tired or a bit not optimal, it's still better than not. And that's me. And just do it was taken.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, you've given me goosebumps. Your granddad's a sage. When I play this and share it with my mum, she's going to be saying the same thing, because it's just do it tired. Absolutely. Oh, wow. Lewis, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
It's been brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So we're at the end, and wow, what an episode. I hope that you've learnt something from this, or you take away something that is beneficial for you. It's been wonderful. Thank you so much for joining. Please, please, please subscribe, share and like, and see you on the next one. Thank you.